RHONJ, Andy Cohen dishes on darkest moment of final. Andy Cohen is dishing on the darkest moment of the RHONJ season 14 finale. There were some highs and lows but definite eruptions, but what really stood out to the Bravo exec? More so, who did he relate to when all was said and done? Keep reading for what Andy had to say about the finale that negated a reunion. RHONJ Andy Cohen dishes on darkest moment of final. Season 14 of RHONJ had a lot of problems, mostly with the cast being so divided. It was noted that the show could not go on that way and something had to change for the better. This has not been disclosed as it could be a full-on reboot or just a few new faces. Viewers will not know until likely 2025 as Andy Cohen has stated he and the network are taking a breather. In the meantime, the season had to wrap up, but the finale allegedly gave enough that a reunion was not needed. Now that the finale has come and gone, what does Andy have to say about it? According to Monsters and Critics, there was one part of the finale that really got to Andy in the worst way. He dished about it on B***Chisesh, a Real Housewives breakdown, and this is what the father of two had to say. This came after Teresa Giudice and her husband, Luis Ruiz, had a sit-down with her lawyer and some of the ladies. They then revealed how Margaret Josephs had been in communication with Luis X, and she was using Marge to spread lies about him. Before the Last Supper, he came out with this. Immediately, fans lambasted Luis for even speaking like that about Margaret's son. Andy Cohen continued with his thoughts about why it was so despicable. Danielle Cabral flipped out at the meal after Jennifer Aydin said her husband had boobs and flew over the table. Hot buttons. Admittedly, everyone has hot buttons and Andy Cohen knows his. When it comes to children, that is where he draws the line, and he would fly across a table to defend them. Luis Ruiz has since addressed the incident in his own way. He never really took accountability, and fans have wondered if he only said something because he got caught. As for one highlight of the finale, Andy admitted he did love when Jackie Goldschneider was found out as someone who hung out with Luis X. So Teresa had blamed Margaret all along, but was targeting the wrong person. He noted watching her walk away from the meal, slumped over, and the commentary that followed gave him life. Andy Cohen sat back in his chair, exhaling deeply as the lights dimmed in the Watch What Happens live studio. He had seen it all, table flips, christening brawls, and accusations that still echoed in the annals of Real Housewives history. But what had unfolded during the upcoming Real Housewives of New Jersey finale? That was something else entirely. Something darker. Something that even he, the seasoned ringmaster of Bravo's most explosive circus, struggled to wrap his head around. He adjusted his tie and leaned forward, the camera capturing every flicker of emotion on his face. You guys, I have seen a lot in my years overseeing Housewives, but this was one of the darkest moments in RHONJ history. Gasps rippled through the live audience. The chatter among fans had already reached a fever pitch. Rumors swirled that something catastrophic had happened during the finale taping, something that left the cast fractured in a way that seemed beyond repair. But up until now, no one had spoken about it publicly. Until now. I think what makes it so shocking is that we knew tensions were at an all-time high, but no one, and I mean no one, could have predicted what happened that night. Andy continued, shaking his head. You always expect the screaming, the accusations, the drama. But this went to a place that felt different. It was real in a way that even I found unsettling. The studio went dead silent, the kind of silence that only heightened anticipation. Andy knew exactly what he was doing. He was Bravo's puppet master, dangling just enough to make the audience desperate for more. And oh, would they get more? But were they ready for it? He sighed again, rubbing his temples. I can't spoil too much, obviously, but I can tell you this. What happened changed the dynamic of this group in a way that may never be repairable. We're talking years of relationships severed in one night. It was like watching a family implode, and it wasn't just one fight. It was layered, it was ugly, and it ended in a way that left everyone shaken. One of the bartenders, a Bravo superfan, mustered up the courage to ask, Andy, was it worse than Teresa flipping the table? Worse than the posh fashion show fights? Andy let out a hollow chuckle. Oh, honey. The table flip was child's play compared to this. This was a different beast. Backstage, the Bravo team had been on high alert that night. Security had been briefed in advance. Tensions among the cast had been bubbling over for months, and everyone knew that the final was going to be the powder keg that finally exploded. But no one expected it to be this bad. Teresa Giudice had arrived to the finale dinner, wearing an expression that was equal parts exhaustion and defiance. Her once ironclad alliance with Jennifer Aydin was showing cracks. And Margaret Josephs, she was ready for war, her heels clicking against the marble floor like the battle drums of an impending showdown. Melissa Gorga sat stiffly at the table, her usual bravado replaced by something closer to resignation. She had fought the Teresa battle too many times to count, and this time she wasn't sure she had it in her. Jackie Goldschneider had returned in a part-time role, but was already regretting it, her fingers gripping the stem of her wine glass like it was a lifeline. And Danielle Cabral. She was the wild card, a grenade with the pin already halfway pulled. The first 20 minutes were tense, the kind of forced politeness that only housewives could manage before all hell broke loose. But then someone said the wrong thing. And then someone else said something worse. Voices started rising. Insults turned personal. And then it happened. Andy closed his eyes for a second, as if replaying the moment in his head. There was a point where I genuinely wasn't sure if we were going to be able to finish filming. There was screaming, there were threats, and there was something said that I don't think can ever be taken back. And I've been doing this a long time, so for me to say that, you know it's bad. Fans in the audience clutched their drinks, whispering among themselves. What could have been said that was so bad? Had someone finally crossed the line in a way that Bravo couldn't even air? Had someone been fired on the spot? Andy continued, his voice softer now. I'll tell you this, when we wrapped that night, no one hugged. No one did the usual, oh, well, we'll talk later. It was just done. I left that set feeling heavy, like I had just witnessed something break for good. He knew Bravo fans were addicted to drama, but this was the kind of drama that left a bad taste in the mouth. The worst part, the reunion was still to come. I filmed a lot of reunions, and let me tell you, if you think the finale is shocking, just wait until you see how these women face each other at the reunion, Andy warned. There were walk-offs. There were moments I had to physically step in. And there's one cast member who might not even finish it. The crowd erupted into chaos. Who wouldn't finish the reunion? Had a housewife finally reached her breaking point? I don't want to give too much away, but I will say this. Andy said, leaning forward with that signature mischievous smirk. After this season, RHONJ will never be the same again. The Bravo universe had been shaken to its core. And if there was one thing Andy Cohen knew, it was that every fan would be glued to their screens, waiting for the moment when the darkest night in RHONJ history would finally be revealed.